Good morning and welcome to Africa This Morning. It is the 18th of February 2014. My name is Beryl. Let's start the day with a look at the headlines.
Boko Haram insurgency. Suspected militants raided a Nigerian village, murdering dozens. Ethiopian airline hijacking. Co-pilot of Ethiopian airline plane hijacked the plane and forcibly landed in Geneva. The latest in the Central African Republic. Interim Prime Minister meets with Christian anti-Balaka militias who say that they are ready to cooperate.
Suspected Boko Haram militants have raided a Nigerian village and murdered dozens. The gunmen reportedly rounded up a group of men in Izge village and shot them before going door to door and killing anyone they found.
Boko Haram is notorious for extreme violence and indiscriminate attacks. The senator for Borno State, where the attack took place, has said 106 people were killed in the latest attack. He said the military recently withdrew from the area after 9 soldiers were killed in an ambush last week. Residents who fled the attack said some of the victims were shot, while others had their throats slit. Other witnesses described how the attackers had arrived on Saturday evening in trucks and motorcycles. They asked the men in the village to gather and then they hacked and shot them to death.
The interim Prime Minister of the Central African Republic yesterday met with leaders of the mainly Christian anti-Balaka militia, some of whom say they are ready to cooperate. Meanwhile, French forces broke down a barricade erected by protesters to stop supplies from getting through to the capital of the city.
The new Prime Minister said he was happy that there were few extremists among the anti-Balaka. The anti-Balaka militias were initially self-defense groups formed in response to abuses committed by rogue ex-Seleka rebels. But the violence has continued unabated between Christian militiamen and minority Muslim who have fled the capital in their thousands in search of safety. The country's new interim president, Catherine Samba-Panza, a Christian, has said her administration was going to go to war against the anti-Balaka.
And to North Africa, 3 South Korean tourists and the Egyptian bus driver were killed and a dozen others were wounded on Sunday after a bomb ripped through their tour bus in the Egyptian border town of Taba.
The Christian Korean pilgrims were en route from Cairo to Israel when the bomb went off as they were waiting at Israel's border for clearance. The border was closed immediately as rescue teams and security workers came to the area. No group has claimed responsibility for the blast, but there is speculation that the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Ansar Bait al-Makids is behind the attack.
It was really frightening and we were held up there for hours before we could get out. We came to know that it was a terrorist attack. We won't go back. No, we won't go back. We've been traumatized.
Hours after the blast, South Korean embassy representatives also crossed the border into Egypt. This is the first terrorist attack targeting a tourist in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula since President Mohamed Morsi was ousted in July last year.
CCTV in Israel-Egypt border.
The co-pilot of an Ethiopian Airlines plane flying from Addis Ababa to Rome was hijacked and the aircraft was forced to land in the land of Geneva where he wanted to seek asylum. The co-pilot said he had seized his chance to take over the plane when the pilot went to the bathroom.
The man, identified as an Ethiopian citizen born in 1983, told police he had seized the aircraft because he felt threatened in his country and wants to seek asylum in Switzerland. A total of 202 passengers and crew members were on board of the Boeing 767 as the drama played out, but no one was injured. The runway was crowded with police and other emergency vehicles as passengers filed out of the plane. Ethiopian Information Minister Redwin Hussein said officials were investigating the incident and trying to get information from the passengers. Geneva's chief prosecutor Olivia Jonot cast doubt of the co-pilot's chances of gaining asylum in Switzerland after the incident.
À 6h10, le copilote
The co-pilot descended from the cockpit on a rope. He ran towards the police and immediately identified himself as the co-pilot and hijacker.
lui-même le pirate.
All flights to and from Geneva were either diverted or cancelled early Monday as the drama was unfolding, but the airport is now gradually reopening.
Still in North Africa, fighters disguised as security officials have killed 3 Tunisian policemen and a civilian in an attack near the border with Algeria.
Gunmen in West Tunisia have killed 4 people, including 2 police, after setting a roadblock and shooting at cars. 4 people were also wounded during the attack, which took place in the early hours of Sunday. The group then ambushed a patrol sent to investigate the attack, killing 2 members of the National Guard and wounding 2 others. Tunisia's security forces have been battling fighters from the banned movement Ansar al-Sharia, whose leader has also declared an allegiance to Al-Qaeda's North Africa wing. Ansar al-Sharia was one of the most hardline groups to emerge after Tunisia's 2011 uprising against autocrat Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, whose government often jailed opposition leaders. Tunisia has continued into transition to democracy since the revolt, with a new constitution and elections scheduled for this year.
Deposed Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi appeared in court on Sunday on charges of conspiring with foreign groups to commit terrorist acts in Egypt, in a further escalation of the crackdown against the Muslim Brotherhood. Declaring it the biggest case of conspiracy in the history of Egypt, prosecutors have detailed a terrorist plan dating back to 2005. Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood propelled him to victory in the 2012 presidential election, but has been driven underground since the army took power in July last year after mass protests against his rule. The state, which has declared the Brotherhood a terrorist group, has killed at least 1,000 of its members and jailed thousands, including top leaders. Egypt's Western allies have exerted little pressure on the Cairo government to end what critics say are widespread human rights violations. A total of 36 people are on trial. Morsi's lawyer threatened to withdraw from the case, saying he could not hear his client speak from behind his soundproof cage. But a representative of the prosecution said defendants were able to hear from inside the cage.
The glass cage was used previously in other cases, and the defendants can clearly hear everything that was said. And the proof of this is that they uploaded when their representative spoke.
The Brotherhood accuses the army of staging a coup and reviving a dictatorship, an allegation the military denies. Since Morsi's downfall, the rebel groups have stepped up bombing and shooting attacks on security forces, killing hundreds. And to Kenya, the trial of Deputy President William Ruto and former radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang resumed yesterday in The Hague after a 2-week break.
3 witnesses, P64, 409 and 323, have been lined up by the prosecution to testify as they seek to prove that William Ruto and Joshua Sang played a major role in the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Witness 464 is a European-based expert whose testimony is expected to provide historical roots of the violence. Before his testimony, the International Criminal Court judges granted Deputy Prosecutor James Stewart time to respond to last week's submission by the Kenyan Attorney General on a motion that would have compelled the government to provide 7 witnesses who recanted their testimony. The defense teams for Mr. Ruto and Joshua Sang have opposed the application.
To South Africa, the operation to rescue illegal gold miners trapped in an abandoned mine in South Africa has been halted overnight. So far, 11 miners have been rescued from the shaft near Johannesburg. Other trapped miners refused to leave after discovering they faced arrest at the surface. Here's more on that story.
A dozen South African illegal miners are brought to the surface Sunday after being trapped in an abandoned gold mine near Johannesburg. They were never supposed to go into the mine.
This was a closed shaft. It was closed with the concrete slabs, deliberately so to prevent people from entering. But they have somehow managed to open up a hole on the side, And currently I think we are able to talk to the people that are trapped inside there, and we are enlarging the hole so that we can be able to leave them out of the shaft.
Authorities say an unknown number remain underground and may fear arrest. Those brought to the surface were checked by medics and then handed over to the police.
There we go.
Illegal mining of abandoned shafts is common in South Africa. The miners often live underground in dangerous and precarious conditions. Fatal accidents are common, and underground battles between rival groups have also been reported. As the rescue operations end for the day, there are no immediate reports of death or injury.
Kinshasa may have found an answer to its traffic problems: robots. So far, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo has 2 8-foot-tall talking androids directing drivers and pedestrians. And now the engineer behind the machines is eyeing the global market.
It may look like something from a low-budget sci-fi movie, but this 8-foot robot in the heart of Kinshasa helps bring real-life order to real-life chaos. Introduced in June last year to regulate the traffic, it's proving surprisingly effective and popular. And now its creators, an association called Women Technology, have global ambitions.
There are many robots in the world, but a robot which is doing road safety and traffic control, that's truly made in Congo. We must sell our expertise to other countries, as well as Central Africa. Why not the US, Europe and Asia?
Each robot costs about $15,000. The machines are powered by solar panels, made of aluminium to withstand the equatorial climate, and equipped with cameras.
When the robot captures images, they're sent over the internet to a center where they're stored and could be used to prosecute people who've committed offenses.
The pictures could in future be sent on to the police, cutting accidents while gaining revenue for the state. Drivers seem to be getting the message.
The robot is good. When it stops the traffic, you can see that everybody stops, and the pedestrians can cross without a problem. Thank God for those who invented it. The traffic police bother us too much. Let's leave robots to do the job.
In this frenetic megacity of 10 million, the people seem happy to let the robots take control.
Kenya's reviewed wildlife laws have seen penalties increased from as little as 50,000 Kenya shillings for ivory poaching offenders to up to 20 million Kenya shillings in a bid to deter poachers from killing wildlife. But as Ebru Africa's Rabia Hawa reports, the signs of hope are yet to be seen from the front lines in the battle against poaching.
2012 was said to be the worst year ever for the African elephant. With an estimated loss of 25,000 elephants to poaching, governments and organizations around the continent stepped up the fight against the trade. This is the Masai Mara Game Reserve in Kenya, bordering Tanzania's famed Serengeti Reserve. It's dubbed one of the 7 wonders of the natural world and hosts tourists from all over the globe. As Kenya stepped up initiatives to curb poaching, poachers seem to have stepped up in tact.
How they poison the elephants is that they just go and where there are a herd of elephants, they see the bigger with the big tusk. They try and make sure that they shot where there is maybe the blood vessels or near the heart, so that the blood clots. Then eventually the elephant dies. There are some trees, they mix the trees, they boil the herb for 10 hours or 12 hours, and then they use that. They smear on the spear. Yeah, they boil it and the poison turns black. That's when the poison is ready to be used.
In the last week alone, 3 elephants have been slaughtered by poachers in the Masai Mara alone, and their tusks likely to be on sale to buyers from the Far East on the black market. On Friday night, a 32-year-old Chinese national, Oh Kai-ming, was arrested as he allegedly attempted to smuggle ivory through Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Kai-ming is now the third Chinese national in as many weeks facing charges under Kenya's revised wildlife law. I'm in the Masai Mara on the eastern part in an area called Ololai Mutian. I'm inside the reserve, and just behind me is a female elephant that was speared, we estimate, between a week and a half ago. She was speared outside the reserve, came into the reserve, possibly looking for some form of protection, and died here. Whoever found her got lucky with her tusks and went away with them. It's another serious case of poaching at a time when Kenya's wildlife laws have just been reviewed, and we're hoping that this is going to serve as a deterrent for future situations like this. But at the moment, it's looking a little grim.
A crowd of young people demonstrate in support of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad a day after the second round of Geneva's peace talks ended with little progress.
A show of support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Young people gather in Damascus, singing, chanting, and waving flags. They are rallying after the second round of the so-called Geneva II peace talks offered little more than an agreement to meet again.
We gained victory. We did not fail. The opposition failed. They took us to Geneva in an attempt to make us fail, but we did not fail. We succeeded with our politics, dignity, and strength. We are strong.
After almost 3 years of conflict that has killed more than 140,000 people, a schoolgirl still has hope for the future.
We are here to say to President Bashar al-Assad that we are with him. We are with you. We do not wait for Geneva.
On Saturday, international mediator Lakhdar Brahimi apologized to the Syrian people for the lack of progress at the talks.
Technology in the medical sector worldwide is growing, with new methods on how to treat various diseases being developed often. From telemedicine, where doctors can treat their patients without having physical contact, to new interactive computer models where doctors can see what effect medical drugs will have on the human body. Ebru Africa's news reporter Agnes Gakunga has more on that story.
With demonstrations over the years of how hospitals can extend care to patients in remote areas, the use of telemedicine has spread rapidly and is now becoming integrated into the ongoing operations at hospitals, home health agencies, private physician offices, as well as consumers' homes and workplaces. The technology is now in its initial stages here in Kenya, with hopes of bringing a great impact to the society.
For instance, in Kenya and other remote places in Africa, is that there's a lot of interest to digitalize because that's where the majority of people are, in the rural areas. So where you have support, donor support or government support, you can do it. So the remote places are not out of your scope for digitalizing.
Coding for each of these, so the students would
But
follow.
a more advanced technology has now been developed in the United States, where a new interactive computer model has been developed, making it easy for doctors to see what effect medical drugs will have on the human body. Though in its initial stages, this is a technology that indeed will have a great impact in the medical world.
So the idea would be to be able to test a whole bunch of different drug treatments or something like that in the simulation to give sort of a first pass of, well, these are 1,000 different drugs you might try. Here's 10 that might be potentially plausible.
The technology will be able to detect how different drugs will react in a human body.
In the end, a drug company is concerned with building molecules to treat, things like fibrillation. They need to know how the molecular events, which are like ion channels in individual cells, are going to cause the collective effects of heart attacks. Go inside and see the heartbeat.
Though such technologies might take time before they are fully embraced in developing countries, they will go a long way in preventing diseases that are caused by different reactions of drugs in human bodies.
It's visible and make them visible in a...
With that, we come to the end of the bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us shortly as we take a look at the leading stories both in business and on the social media platform with Cheryl Tichkene.